Okay, so we are here for episode 2. You're going to kind of see the shuffling and moving around the stuff we had to do to get the car into the garage. You're going to see a lot of elbow grease just getting the car in the garage because it doesn't steer and doesn't push very well. Then we're having to use a winch to do that. Not going to see a whole lot of me other than under the hood working on it, but the audio is way better than the first video, but you'll also kind of see my car a little bit. You'll see my dad's car, and that kind of explains how we got off into this Mopar world of things. But hopefully you enjoy the video. We're not just trying to make 5 videos and show you the car is completely restored in 3 hours. Trying to document kind of from the start to wherever we end up. And you can see I'm still with the car, so we're not done yet. But like I say, not the goal to just show you an hour-long episode of the car we brought home and then an hour later it's running and driving and down the road. So hope you enjoy it, and then we'll pick up another episode next week. All right, do it again.
Man, there's fire coming out underneath that.
Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, whenever.
Start it.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
That probably ain't gonna work.
Probably ran out of gas.
You ready?
Yeah.
So the Super B's out of here opens up some real estate to work on this car, which has been the goal from the start. Moved it over, got my TIG welder set on the cart. And then I have a whole weekend worth of garage reconstruction after clearing up all that space. But we'll get you more on it when I start actually cleaning this out and getting it organized, and then we will start working on the car. That's all steps. But step 1 was to get the Super B out of here, and it is on its way to its house. There we are. Next to the steering wheel there's 2 buttons. Over here. Yep, hit those.
Both of them?
Yep. It's not going to crank yet. Alright. Push that button. Now it will crank. And yeah. Alright, do it again.
probably roll that over too.
Oh, pretty, perfect.
It's pretty mothballing.
It smells like
Tony
mothballs.
said, that's my dad here. Well, that'll be a flashback for it. We'll get these mothballs.
I'm going to go ahead and throw the old inspection camera down this number 2 hole. I've looked at all the others, they look fine. This one had rust on its spark plug. When I started this whole process, I knew it was going to be bad. It's just bad. The fact that there's any movement at all and the cylinder looks like it does kind of confuses my brain. No, there's like a crusty layer. The piston is actually moving in there. Ugh. It's so bad. I went through yesterday and sprayed WD-40 down all these holes. I just can't imagine anything but a sleeve fixing this problem. But maybe I'm... Yeah, see. Ooh. Things just don't feel good in here. I showed this picture to a friend of mine and he said it looked like a cast iron sewage pipe. I'll see if you can actually see this mess. That is the, I know it's not in focus, but you can imagine that's not what it's supposed to look like. I'll show you another cylinder. That is all wet with WD-40. It's pretty far up. There, that one's pretty far down. You know, it just looks like an old dirty piston. Number 2, there you go. That's a good shot. That's what it's supposed to look like. But number 2 looks like
a rusty cast iron sewage pipe. That's the best descriptor I've heard for it. You compare that other image to this one. Clearly there was water in this cylinder. When I'm moving the crank, you can see that piece just sits there, and you can see the piston move underneath it. But from here, really just taking it apart and seeing what's in there is all I can do. So, alright, so I'm good. I've decided to pull the motor first. First step I'm doing there is getting this header out. There's nothing good when it comes to this header. They're bad even when they're a good set of headers. This set of headers is far from good. You can see right down there's a bolt that is actually, that's the header pipe right there, and then there's the bolt, and it's blocked from a socket getting to it. On top of that, the car has power brakes, so there's a brake booster. The motor mounts are sagged, so the header is actually sitting on the gearbox. All the bolts have been rusty. I've got all but 2 out. This header bolt right here is physically touching the header pipe, so it's given some struggles. And a Sawzall may get involved taking these headers out. These headers are completely destroyed underneath, and they're barely good for scrap value. This header is not as bad, at least in that it doesn't wrap around the steering linkage. That one, you actually have to take the steering linkage apart and to get the header out, or cut it out, which is probably what I'm going to do. But for now, I'm starting with getting everything off to pull the engine. Few lines of thought there. The K-member needs to be swapped because there's a busted part in the K-member that's allowing this wheel to act like this. The engine bay is kind of a train wreck, so really to get it to look decent even, the motor can come out and I can actually clean it and get some paint on it and just clean it up. It's pretty bad. And stop some of this rust. I mean, this rust isn't terrible. There's some actual pitting on that side. I pulled the battery tray. It's right there. It's not in great shape. It's going in the trash. I may have the original one out of my 73 Duster. If I do, I'll put it in here. If not, I'll get one. But so I'm going to start with this big project addition. And the reason I started with the headers is because it's something I really don't want to do, so I'm just going to bite the bullet and do that. Because my small block had the same style of header. They were better. You could actually get to some of the bolts, but in this one back here I've had to use a stubby wrench, which gives you no leverage. But at least it broke loose. I was expecting them all to be rusted worse. I sprayed them with penetrating wool a couple days ago, but then my can ran out of juice. Actually, it ran out of propellant, so I had a full can of PB Blaster, but nothing would come out of it. So then I tried to switch to W40, and it did the same thing. Both of them were probably decades old, so, or at least a decade old. So that may have been the problem. I don't know if they have a shelf life, but it seems like they may have. rusty bolts. And rusty everything else. It's kind of coarse, it's like sandpaper. These things. The torsion bar front end, the torsion bar runs that way. And it kind of takes up part of the space in between the fender wells. The gearbox is gigantic as well, but every car has that issue.
Okay, dinner's ready now.
All right. Oh, still excellent. Amazing. More specifically, it looks like it had straight water in it, which is a little frightening. Because we had a huge freeze here that took out power for like a week. Got down to 7 degrees or something, which is really abnormal for Texas. But and this car was probably outside during that. I can't imagine that did anything good. Get a cheater bar. Might have a cheater bar down my truck. I don't know if a cheater bar will do it any good anyway. This is where I say the sawzall may come into play. And the sawzall straight back to that bolt, and then it won't be touching the header pipe anymore. But I think I'm going to go eat, and then I'll come out here and finish taking drastic measures to attack it. Trust me, the headers are not salvageable or useful to anybody. So it is no big loss to anybody on the planet that they're going to get cut up. If they were still usable, I would try, but I really don't care. The collectors are actually cut off of them, and the pipes are smashed, so they're garbage. But I will eat some food and revisit this in a bit. So I've got some grub in my belly, and now I'm going to try and cut that header pipe as flush with the valve cover as I can, basically. Or as close I have a suspicion that dog kibble. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Looks like maybe a squirrel or something, a rodent, was packing away food in there to store for the winter. That looks like doggy kibble, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's dog food. Anyway, so that should, as you can see, yeah, there's a bunch of it in there. That's excellent. Anyhow, that should give me access to that bolt. Done screwed up some animals' food supply. Of course, I've already moved the car, so I don't imagine that's going to be an issue anyway. Wow, kibble just keeps falling out here. No. Oh my gosh, all that dog food is just falling out of that exhaust pipe. Yes. What? That's crazy. It's just a spider, dude.
No, that's when I say lift.
Your hand?
No.
It's just a spider, buddy.
Kind of like spiders.
Okay, more fell, so pick it up.
Oh, wait.
Oh my god, there's so much of it.
It's just rolling. For some reason.
So I talked to a guy on the phone that used to own this car because I needed a picture of his ID to do the title work. Anyway. And he told me he had the heads ported and polished on it. And this head does look like it's had some port work done. I don't know if it's good. But it's definitely not standard factory Mopar port. If they're any good anymore, of course. I'm sure it's fine. As I was talking about earlier, this set of headers kind of looks like it, you know, predates mandrel bending. And this header tube here is, it actually feeds into that back tube. I've never seen a set where the pipes came apart for small block Chrysler. I may just not be familiar enough. But there sure was a lot of dog kibble in there. kibble doesn't smell good. Smells kind of like varnished gas. But maybe it's not the kibble. Maybe it's the dog food. Or not the kibble, but the car. So, anyhow. I kind of come to the conclusion that I'm pulling the motor anyway. And I got to it last night and today, and I just cut those headers out.
This was the header as it was in the car.
But this was actually on the car this way. It looks like the header did not have good clearance, and it may have sat physically on the dirt at some point. It was not very well held together, so I didn't think it was much of a loss when I cut it. Plus, cutting them out of there sure made it a lot easier than taking all the steering linkage apart or jacking up the motor to get the passenger side out. Just a lot easier all the way around. And that stuff will just go to the dump. But it has rotated quite a bit. Probably rotated about 180 degrees. But it doesn't sound good. My hope is that I can have this cylinder sleeved. I don't think there's any chance on earth it would run like that. Well, it may run, but it couldn't do anything good. That cylinder just looks in very poor condition. That's got to be some kind of I actually think the timing chain's broke. This year they had some phenolic chain crap. But what it feels like is there's a valve pushing on a piston, and then the valve is pushing back, and it kind of sounds like so. Probably wouldn't be a great idea to try and crank it over anyway. But it did rotate better than I thought it was going to. Can't really get it to go backwards. But probably loosen it down, bolt if I do. There it goes. She don't like it go back. Cheater bar at the ready, but ended up not needing it. Sure sounds pretty dry when you rotate it though. I got all the spark plugs out of it too, so it's definitely not making any compression. Ugh. Primary purpose of seeing how much I can rotate it is I'm a little concerned about how many of the flex plate bolts I'm going to be able to get out. I sure would like to be able to take the flex plate bolts out and not have to pull the transmission from the bottom of the car. I don't really have room to pull the engine and transmission together, and I really don't want to. So better just pull the engine and take it to the machine shop. There we go. A little bit of progress today. A little bit each day. Not in a huge hurry. Probably this weekend though. Today's Wednesday. Probably this weekend I'll get all the front stuff off of it and either bag the bolts so I don't lose them or put them in as best I can where they came from. Because I would like to get the compressor and all that stuff back on. I have no idea if the compressor's any good or not. Probably not. It's like a 2-cylinder V compressor. It's like a V motor, so it kind of has the same sealing problems after sitting, although it has not been near as open as the engine itself. But I'm okay with the amount of progress today, and like I said, really this weekend I'll knock out some, make some good progress.
So there it is. There's our second episode. What you really can't tell just from the audio and the video is how disheartening the condition of the engine was when I first got the bore scope in there. Really had considerations of just parting this thing out and getting rid of it, because it would have sure been faster and a lot less work. But as I've said before, I think the car needed saving, and it's not a quick process. I mean, anybody that's worked on them or kind of tried to bring one back to life, some of them are not bad. This one needs a little bit of every skill you have. Some body work, mechanical, had to get a machine shop involved, but there it is. There's episode 2. Next week we'll move on to the next steps, because this week was all about just getting ready to pull the engine and getting the car in the garage, and then we'll keep on sharing. I enjoy it. You guys, hope y'all enjoy it too.